I want to know from you, from someone who worked as hard as you did to get as far as you did, to play professional football, to be on NFL rosters, to see this kid not only get to start a regular season NFL game, but play well and win it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I'm a D2 guy, right? So there's also the D2 piece
Right.
of it where he probably heard for a long time, yeah, you're just not quite good enough, right? So I think for him, it was probably even more special. I think when you see a guy like Tyson, probably a lot of the reason, too, the fan base is excited right now is it's a story that kind of reminds us all of like, oh, man, I played football, right? Like it kind of reminds you all, like everybody of, hey, I knew someone like that who then kind of worked their way up. I think for him, it was a special day, obviously. I heard on the broadcast, I think he bought like 53 tickets or something. So that's obviously a special day to have your family there. I think, it's a testament to him grinding. And then obviously, and, I'm going to try to not be bitter about it, but he beat out one of my guys, right, with PJ, right? Mm-hmm. But I think he did a good job of, he went into training camp and obviously just put in the work to give himself a spot to get a spot start against, when Fields gets hurt. And then I think he played well enough to, probably argue that he should get at least one more, right? And I think that's probably where the conversation over at the Bears facility is at right now.
So for someone like you who got close, you're as close as any of us have ever been to being in a starting NFL quarterback. What do you remember from your time there where you were like, man, this is crazy that I have this opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I was self-aware enough to know it's going to take a lot for me to stick around, if I'm being honest with you. So listen, I'm at training camp and I'm stretching and I'm just soaking it in, right? Because it's not forever. It's not forever for the most talented people on planet Earth, let alone someone like me who, man, if you watched me move as a kid, you'd have been like, just about everybody on this football field is going to be a pro before Tim. I think, I was the kid growing up where a lot of the guys were like, man, you're going to make all my coaches told me you're going to make a heck of a coach one day, which is an absolute insult as a player, right? You're like, man, I'd like to be a decent player. But yeah, for me, I soaked it all in. I'm sure Tyson did the same. He's also, man, he's in such a different spot now. And this is something that I think is special for Tyson, not necessarily the Bears, is that you go in there, you have this start, you win, and you play clean enough football that more or less he's probably 3 more of those away from everyone's going to view him as at least a solid backup, right? And then the second you get that mark on your resume as a quarterback, it's a good life. Right, because you might not start a lot of games.
That's exactly what I said, Tim. After that game, is I said that he is on track if he keeps this up to be a solid backup. Which I said that is a huge compliment, and it would be a major achievement.
Oh yeah, 10 years at league minimum, or what what QBs are making nowadays. It beats working, right? So I think the reality is man, you go in there, he gets 1 or 2 more clean starts. And what I mean by that too is, and we'll dive into it more, but it's like he made some good throws, right? I think he played effective in the passing game. But what I walked away impressed with was we had a ton of can run adjust, right? Where you saw him tap his helmet and he's yelling can, or, some teams call it kill, and you see the quarterback slash their throat. It's just going from one play to another. And they had a lot of run plays that were can run adjust. He got him into the right look, and it's the right look because we're popping it for 12 or 14. Right? It's usually when you don't can it or you can it, and then it's a run stop at the line of scrimmage that it's, hey, we probably, we probably went to the wrong play there. He had a lot that helped pop that run game. Now, I also think that run game was cruising on its own, but it does help if your quarterback's getting you into the right play.
When we talk about Tyson doing the right things and we hear it from the coaches of, this is how he made the team, this is how he became the number 2 quarterback. What does that actually mean? Like, break it down chapter and verse for us, Tim, on what that looks like.
So the most simple one would be like, okay, hey, we could call it double right, 50 OP, can to 60 Bruce, which just means we're in double right. So I'll break it all down, which is we got our tight end to our right, then we have a receiver split right. Okay, so that's our doubles to the right side. Our doubles to the left side would be 2 receivers. We have 50 OP, which would be the open side run. So away from the tight end, we're going to run 50 OP. And a lot of you guys that like played, Pee-wee, they're listening to your guys' program and they're saying, no, Tim, we had the one back going through the 5-hole. Well, when you're in the NFL and some dude makes $9 million to tote the rock, you just say the hole because we're not giving it to anybody else, right? So it's 50 OP because that's our tailback. He's going to get it going to the left. If the defense would be playing more numbers to that open side, meaning like, hey, we have 3 guys or 4 guys, and on the other side we have less, you're going to can it and run 60 Bruce, which means we're going to run towards our tight end instead of our open side. So that's like the very rudimentary level of it. What the Bears probably had would be like you try to dress it up with motion. So they'd have like, fix, which means our F motions inside of the X. So they'd be like fix to double right, 50 OP, F bubble, kill 60 Bruce, and then they'd, hey, we're going to alert it to OP pass left, F samurai, right? Like that's probably what Tyson's calling in the huddle. Simultaneously, like the most rudimentary level of it is you're really checking based on numbers. Hey, we have this many guys to the left or this many guys to the right.
Like a box count?
Yeah, exactly. Or it gets more complex into front specific, right? Hey, if we get an over front, we want to run toss. Or if we get an under front, we want to run wham. So that's where it gets more complex. A lot of it was probably numbers count related for Tyson early in his career. It will progress, though, to fronts and different safety rotation of, hey, do we want to toss crack here? Do we want to motion our tight end and run wham? That's where it gets more and more sophisticated.
So when they threw stuff at him, he was able to articulate what it was and share it. Because I want to know, like, how do you catch a coach's eye when you're not getting a ton of reps?
Yeah, here's what I'll tell you played to his advantage is that Justin is also young. And that what I say that is I walked into the Rams and Sam Bradford was the number 1 overall pick, right? Kellen Clemens was in that, who had, 10 years in the league, and Sam had already played a lot of football. They don't – you're expected to catch up to the rest of the room. They're not slowing it down for the rookie from Fort Lewis College, right? That's not how it works. It's you catch up. Well, Sam had played so much football that they're way beyond numbers count, right? Like Sam had knocked that out his second year. What played to Tyson's advantage is Justin is still young in his development, and this isn't a knock on Justin. It's just the reality of he is still young in his development, so they're not that sophisticated in the protection checks, in the run checks, which is probably what helped him not catch up, but catch the coach's eyes, because it's like he walked in and he probably was able to get up to speed a little bit quicker than maybe traditionally if you had a real vet quarterback in there who's sitting there and they're not taking the time to explain to you why we're checking in and out of wham. Hey, you should just figure it out, right? So that helps, but that's how you catch their attention. The little things that you would catch a coach's attention if you're really talking training camp would be, hey, at your Thursday walkthrough, instead of 52's the mic, instead of miking the actual mic, you went, we're getting scraped from the boundary. Hey, hi, meaning let's mic the Sam instead of the actual mic. And now we're going to account and we're going to pick up this pressure, which then makes it to where I don't have to throw hot. Like those are the little things that an NFL OC gets excited about. Whereas, we lost half the listeners because they're like, what the hell is a high call?
Tim, a texter literally sent us a text and said, what the hell did he just say?
So I just think those are the ways in which you catch an NFL OC's eyes, is the little boring things, the run checks, the mic adjustments. That's how you catch their eyes, and probably why he was able to stick around and make the team.
According to Next Gen Stats, Tyson Bagent relied on short passes in his first NFL start, averaging 2.1 air yards per attempt without throwing a single pass over 15 air yards. That 2.1 air yards per attempt is the shortest average depth by a qualified quarterback in a game this season. What do those facts tell you?
Yeah, those are always – I think everything has a story. It's like when people always tell me, hey, Justin holds the football way too long. I do think, by in general, Justin holds onto the ball. I also think, like, if you've watched the Chicago Bears offensive line, like, you at times would have to evacuate the pocket as well, right? You can't make it perfect. So I always think they tell a piece of the story. to me, what the air yards really tell me is how often they threw that smoke screen. Because I remember, we threw it to Mooney, we threw it to DJ Moore probably 3 times. Like, that's going to cut down your air yards in a big way. I also am going to be honest, I didn't see a single shot play called where it was legitimately, hey, we're going to try to stretch the field with a post or a go. I didn't really see any of those. So it's kind of the combination of, I think they did a ton of the smoke screens. I don't think they called any shot plays. What I will tell you is I thought he did a really good job abbreviating his delivery, right? When you see him throw smoke screen, when you see him throw those screens to the receiver, he doesn't take his normal delivery like Justin does at times. He abbreviates it, throws it to where it's more about, hey, can I get it out there quick? And I do think that perimeter screen game benefited from Tyson being in there. However, if he's going to continue to have success, he will at some point, not at some point, he's going to in his next start have to push the ball down the field, because we're going to see teams decide, hey, you know what? We're coming up here. We're going to run press man, and we're going to make you throw it over the top.
So what do you expect to happen now? Like, what do you think the Chargers will try to do to Bagent, and what's the counter for the Bears offense?
Yeah, I think they're going to – Staley's tough because he's such a quarters guy, right? He's a quarters too high guy. So he's really going to have to get away from his identity to do what I think you have to do against this Bears offense, which is press them up, play single high safety, take away the run with the extra run support, and make Tyson throw it over the top. Like, that's really, to me, after watching the Bears, the game plan that I would come in with. And then if the kid beats you, the kid beats you. I don't think you can sit back in 2-shell and win, because I think the Bears are going to pound the rock. The Foreman kid's a stud. I mean, I watched him in Carolina. It's like he has this knack for when you feel like, oh, this team's giving up, and they're, it was when PJ goes in Carolina and they trade Christian McCaffrey, and all of a sudden he's going for 150 a game. It's like he did that again, right? It's like he just has this knack for a young quarterback comes in the game, the team's struggling, and all of a sudden he's going to keep you in ball games by, running for over 100 yards. So I think you can't sit back in 2-shell with him in the backfield. I think they're going to continue to rely on the run game. But to me, what the Chargers are going to have to do, they're going to have to come out in single high. And what the Bears have to put in is more man beaters. They've struggled with that the whole season. Their man beater play selection is just it's horrible. Like, it's not at an NFL level that it should be. They need more pick plays.
I was just going to say rubs and picks, right?
Yeah, I think you just call it a pick, right? We always say rubs on offense. To me, it's just like, let's go out there, let's actually pick them. I don't want there to be any confusion. We're going to pass interfere them, and we're going to make them call it, right? That's what I tell our first grade flag team. Like, listen, we're going to run mesh. I want you to go hit that mesh. Kid. You've got to hit that kid. We'll force this 14-year-old ref to throw the flag. And listen, we've had a couple called back. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but I'm working the refs as best I can. And that's what you got to do in the NFL. You got to run out there, screen somebody. If they call it back, they call it back. But guess what? We'll call it again. So to me, it's like, that's what we need to see from the Bears offense if they're going to have success against man coverage. Because to date, all they've done against man coverage is they run Mooney or DJ Moore in the slot, and they run them on a go, which isn't a bad play call in and of itself, but it can't be your only way of beating man coverage.
I do love that the default setting for Tyson Bagent seems to be, when in doubt, throw it at DJ Moore. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I love that too. And I don't think you can blame the young kid for having that default setting. I think if any of us three were dropped in there, we'd probably have the same one.
I'm interested too, though, at the idea of single high, that they're that threatened by Deontay Foreman. If you were to, how would you assess this philosophy and play a tight zone, not necessarily a deep zone, like a classic Tampa 2, where you've got, deeper than the deepest or whatever, but a close zone blitz with pressures coming from anywhere, need be at any time, and just muddy up, just put more bodies in that area that's 5 to 7 yards by the line of scrimmage, and force him to see small throwing windows in a short period of time.
Yeah, if you don't see, I would tell you, if the Chargers don't come out in single high this week, they're going to do what you're saying, and they're going to do it out of their quarters base. Like, you're going to see the safeties and the corners at very similar depths versus the safeties maybe cheating a little bit deeper than
That's
the corner.
what I mean. 'Cause I don't know what it says about
Yeah.
me. Maybe I'm a little more conservative, or maybe I don't trust a young quarterback more. But I would much more, especially with the ability of some guys to win their one-on-one battles along the line itself, where you might not even need those pressures. Just make things tight. Make things small.
I think you just if you're a D coordinator going against a young guy, there's also something to be said about not being sound. And I don't mean that in like a negative way, but just, Peyton, if you went against Peyton or you go against Tom or you go against some of these guys that did it for a really long time, you had to be fundamentally sound or they're going to be like, oh, okay, hey, I'm going to gash you in the run game because you're zone blitzing me in the wrong manner. These young quarterbacks who don't necessarily even have that ability to get in and out of the, hey, we're going from a full pass play to a run play. They don't necessarily have that ability, whereas they do have a bunch of can adjustments, but to me, you could still zone blitz them and not even be sound, and you probably get home more often than not. So I think you're onto something. My gut's telling me I think people are going to come out and they're going to be in single high. If they're not, though, I could see exactly what you're talking about, where it's that, we're really in a quarter shell, but listen, we're going to play these guys tight and we're going to give our safeties permission to kind of jump some underneath stuff.